Five, four, three, two, one. Chris, how's it going?
What's up, man? Glad to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you agreeing to do this. You know, you and the Vertech team, you're control freaks over there at Vertech. You're top notch Canary partners. Been around for a long time. You're well versed in the Canary system and Ignition. So thanks for agreeing to do this.
No problem. You know, we love working with Canary as much as inductive automation, and those are our two passions. And so glad to talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Yeah. So I thought it'd be fun if we build this out on the fly and come up with sort of a live demo. What do you think?
Which is a crazy idea, but I'm all for it.
It just might work, right?
We're living on the edge. It might go down in flames, but it also could be great.
Yeah. Well, we'll have fun either way.
Yes, we will.
So thinking here, you know, what are some of the challenges? What do you want the theme to be? And I think you and the team at Vertech, you're all winners. So let's talk about winners. You certainly help your customers and you highlight their data challenges and help them get over the hump. So let's talk about taming some of those challenges. What do you think?
Oh, yes. And yeah, tough data challenges, as you're showing in the title of this episode now. That's what we're going to talk about.
Okay, perfect.
There's so many. For starters, we deal with the same problems over and over again. This isn't going to be unique to just our customers. This is unique to the whole, or this is something that's consistent throughout the whole industry. And so what I'm going to bring up hopefully resonates with a lot more people.
Yeah.
So there's three things. And
hey, but before we get there, Chris, let's those who don't know you, maybe talk about your role a little bit at Vertech, and I can introduce myself.
Building on the fly, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm Chris, SCADA and MES specialist at Vertech, and we exist to elevate human well-being through automation. So we are a premier integrator for inductive automation, and we are a certified partner with Canary. I think that's the right term.
Yeah, that fits.
Go with like double platinum, A-list. Something sounds about right for the relationship that we have with you guys.
Yeah, you guys are data rock stars for sure. So in my role with Canary, I work closely with partners like yourselves and try and set you up for success and make sure you have all the tools you need on the Canary side. But you did raise a good point. So we're talking about some of these tough challenges that the companies face. Are there any common themes that you see kind of playing out across various industries as it relates to their data needs and these challenges that they're coming to you to help solve?
Yes. And you're right. This can go cross industry. So the first problem is that when the data gets too large, so this can be multi-site. This could be just tons of tags. This could be the frequency at which we're polling, but at some point it taps out SQL. There are limitations to performance when there just gets to be too much data. And
do you ever see any situations where maybe they're just not even collecting the data that they wish they could collect because of those limitations?
We don't let it go there.
Yeah.
We're all about, there should never be anything limiting you of, Inductive has been big on this since day one of everything should be unlimited. So we don't want to ever scale back on the amount of users or the amount of connections or the amount of tags or the types of data that we're using or even the length of data that we are storing. And so we personally wouldn't let a system get there. Yeah, I'm sure there's somebody out there that was like, they're sacrificing what they want to do because SQL or something else isn't allowing them to get the performance. So that's one. Another one that's extremely common, this is going to cross every industry, is there's legacy hardware out there. It does not have the same naming conventions. It does not have the same data structure. There's a bunch of databases that they're trying to bring data in from. And so data inconsistencies all the time, everywhere, anywhere where it's an existing facility or group of facilities.
So that leads to challenges when they're trying to do some modeling and things down the line, right?
Big time. And then the last major one that we see a lot is no matter how much you build, there's always going to be some other user that wants to see the data in some other way. And not everybody is an expert at databases or even Ignition development or scripting or reporting or anything like that. And they just want a simple tool that they could use from the client side within the application. And that tends to come up over and over again.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a good foundation. We know what some of these challenges are. And we know there's challenges out there, but let's talk about some actual real world use cases. So it's one thing to say, well, here's what people are facing, but what specifically have you and your team at Vertech done? Maybe highlight some projects if you can.
Yes. And I will name names as much as I can. You know, the age-old dilemma of like, oh, we're not allowed to talk about that.
Right.
So we won't talk from experience as much as possible. So the first one can be named. This was a firebrand project from this year, which thank you very much to Inductive Automation for recognizing that. And we are honored. So this was for SB Energy. This was a large system in solar. And it was enterprise looking at multiple solar fields. And when you're thinking solar fields, think miles and miles of solar panels and thousands of devices. And all of this is rolling up to an enterprise system. That's a lot of data.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have site level Canary Historians as well as an enterprise level Canary Historian. And this project, not possible without it. And we've seen this over and over. Solar is a huge industry where we use Canary in association with Ignition. And I just like to reiterate that they're sold out on Ignition. So are we. It is the perfect solution for this system. It is all of the dashboarding, all of the alarming, all of the analytics, everything that we wanted to do. We just need the data to be in an enterprise historian that is going to match that unlimited approach that we are doing with Ignition. And so for them, it was, the absolute winning scenario of lots of data, use this, be able to tame your data and be able to display it correctly within the Ignition application.
Very good. So for those who maybe aren't as familiar with the Canary Historian, maybe let's touch on some of the highlights of the foundation of the Canary system, being our historian. We've been doing this for a long time. Canary goes back to 1985. So we're not new kids on the block here.
For sure. And I'll give you two more just quickly on this to add to the scale out and show the size, because it's very impressive what you have built in the product of Canary. So oil and gas, can't name it, but large on the West Coast with 3.5 million tags that are
3.5 million. Okay.
Yes. So huge system. And this was Ignition 8.0. This was beta perspective when we were rolling this out. Mm-hmm. Since that time, it's 8.1 upgraded and it's rocking. But it wouldn't have worked without Canary. And again, it was all about how do you take that much data and make it usable within the system. We also have another one that is a very large enterprise customer. I'm going to give a shout out because they're the ones that I spend the majority of my week with. But they have 250 plus sites that are rolling up into an enterprise system, all running on Ignition with Canary as the database historian there. And again, that system, the reason why all those calculations work, the reason why all of their storage works, the reason why their whole system works is because Canary was paired with Ignition. Mm-hmm. And so 3 great examples of how do you solve data challenges.
Absolutely. Yep. So a lot of common themes there. We spoke earlier about the historian and kind of what that brings to the table. A single server can grow beyond 2 million tags, for instance. It's easy to scale. but it's more than just the historian component, right? The data visualization tools. Let's kind of talk about some of these in conjunction. So first, I guess covering the historian side, like we said, it's scalable, right? You're going to future-proof any data needs because no matter how large that system gets, it's going to continue to grow over time and not have any issues there. When these projects are first coming about, do you have an idea of how many tags you're looking at over the long haul, or do you see these systems grow over time?
So I would say that we use it as that insurance policy future-proof because we don't. You start to get the idea that this industry or this size of an enterprise account, like the tags will get big, but I don't know. Nobody on our team knows. The customer doesn't know.
They don't tell you when they're going to acquire a new company and bring that in?
Or how many sites, or what about when they get their other business units on it? There's so many unpredictable circumstances that why not just go with tools that can scale up with it as you need? And that's been the beauty of both Ignition and Canary. Once we get it in, we actually stop thinking about how many tags it's going to have or how many screens it's going to have. Technically, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, right? It's not a limiting factor. Exactly.
It's not.
So I like this. Let's keep this theme going here. Now, lossless compression is kind of the secret sauce of the Canary system, right? The fact that you always have access to that raw data. There's no interpolation that's taking place. Talk about that and maybe some things you've seen over the years working with customers who need access to that raw data and need to maintain that granularity.
Yeah. So it's a big deal of that one, all of your data is there, that you didn't have to separate it out and put it onto some other storage or long-term storage that you don't have immediate access to. We will keep years and years worth of data in a Canary Historian. And at that point, one, for calculations, two, for the way that you're seeing trending, it's nice that you're not doing interpolation and that you can see a very fine resolution to anything. And so I'm coming at this from a user standpoint. Kyle, maybe you give the Canary sales pitch of why is this so different than some of the other tools out there?
Yeah, well, just the fact that, like you said, having this lossless compression, it's something you don't have to think about because you don't need to decide, do we need to trim off some old data or you're always going to have access to what you need. So I think from the user's perspective, you don't know what other system you're going to, take this data into and the types of calculations and, the things you can apply to the data that you're going to learn from. And if you don't have that foundation of the true raw data, your results may not be what you expect or true results. So from the Canary side, I think the fact that one, it's going to scale, and also it's going to scale with performance and the true granularity, the raw data. That's huge. That's a triple threat.
Yes, it is. And I think you're catching at a theme that you're trying to put in the right tools so that you don't have to think about everything that's going to happen in the future. You don't know it all of where it's going to go. And so if you've set it up with the right foundation, you've done the right thing for yourself, your customer, the engineers, everybody involved in the project is going to be able to win with them.
Right. Let's talk about the end user again and kind of the approach they take whenever the Vertech control freaks get their hands on a project. So this onboarding, this learning curve, we have Axiom, which is our trending dashboarding and reporting tool. What kind of experience is needed to get started with that? And what is some of the feedback that you've heard from end users over the years with Axiom?
Yes. So let's give a real world example. of this. Sadly, not a customer that I can mention my name, but they are the largest miner of aggregate in the US, and they have a killer Canary system throughout dozens of plants, maybe up to even 100 at this point. And so it's recording all of the data. That was actually one of their first moves. And then there's Ignition that is running out there. And then they also have some instances of Flow that are running out there for OEE purposes. And great systems and that we built. And so in my mind, I'm like, all right, show me how you're using it. Show me day to day what's going on. And it hurts a little bit when I see people not using all the screens. That is always one of those like, ugh. But on the side, that they were happy with the solution and that they had found another thing that worked for them so well. And it happened to be Axiom. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not going to complain. It's still in the system. It isn't a replacement for Ignition or Flow, but it was a tool that could be used by the masses. Mm-hmm. And so just to give it its 10 cents here of Axiom is a tool where you can just rapidly develop trends and or very simple dashboards directly from the client side within the application. And it is so easy. You get like a 5-minute tutorial and you can start dragging and dropping stuff onto it and It works.
Yeah. It's HTML5 based, so accessible from a cell phone, a tablet out in the field, whatever it may be, and they can just build out their own screens. You don't know what they're trying to view, but they can just in a couple seconds drag on the appropriate trends and see what they need to see.
Yep. And so we had multiple people from different sites that had started building out their own trends. Their own little dashboards to be able to view some of the data that was very specific to them. And this is not bad. Again, reiterating that it's not a replacement. Mm-hmm. There were still the formal application screens that had to be there because those are the ones where the data was actually trending and it was scalable and they were dynamic and you can continue to manage them across an entire organization. But sometimes people just need a little sandbox playground for themselves to be able to view the data. And that's what Axiom is. So we started actually building it in as a navigation menu item in our Ignition projects. So that you literally can just click on Axiom and build another trend for yourself or build another little light screen. And the users like it.
Yeah, it's pretty seamless integration. Do you have any favorite features in Axiom or any of the controls specifically that you see customers enjoy using?
So maybe we can get our little live demo here to do it automatically, but simple stuff in terms of where you're just seeing min-max average off of your trends. It sounds so simple, but that you can throw all of your points on there, very easily be seeing that. Maybe put in a live value of what you're looking at right there, like below it in more SCADA style format. Again, the ease of use is the thing that is the nicest part of this.
Yep. What about on the reporting side? What kind of reports have customers used Axiom for?
So just being honest, less on the reporting because we would be normally doing that in Ignition. And so probably just more in the dashboarding trending for us. So if you have some other ones that you see people do all the time, you hit it. That's you.
Yeah, it varies. And that's the beauty of it. It's whatever needs to be customized for the individual use case. What blows me away is just kind of their performance and how quickly these data points are populated on the screen. Goes back to the performance of the system.
And now I'm just fascinated with watching what I said literally like 45 seconds ago being on screen right now. So yes, rapid development, fun stuff.
Absolutely.
Oh, and it even gets typed out for me in
This is good stuff. I tell you, it's on the fly.
What's next, Kyle?
All right, let's move along here. I mean, it can be more about simple trends and things. You can build out HMI like dashboards, like you said, whatever the customer needs. Axiom can do it, and there is a very short learning curve, which is great. Okay, so we talked about how it's more than just a historian. Let's really focus on our module here for Ignition, because I think that's what our ICC virtual attendees really want to hear. So let's kind of zero in and talk about not only how you can log data, but also read data and kind of break that down in maybe some separate slides here. So how do we log data from Ignition into Canary?
So for one, this is a module that's available on the module showcase. And this is your sales pitch, but I'm going to steal it from you. It's free.
Right.
You literally just download it from the showcase, install it on your gateway, and it allows Canary Historian to be a tag history provider directly within Ignition. And this integration sounds simple, but it's a big deal. Mm-hmm. It means that everything is browsable, everything is selectable within menu. All the functionality that you would want from Ignition, from a tag history provider, is available just natively. Mm-hmm. And that is super different than you would get from like an OSI Pi or some other historian out there, or even other tools that you might use.
From the Canary side, so Chris, I know you and I have spoken about this. We want to be open, secure, and adaptable. And on the open side, it's the fact that we encourage using other best-in-class solutions. Some of our customers only need the Canary system. That's great. But these larger use cases, you've seen in the real world, being able to combine the power of Ignition and Canary is really just going to take it to the next level. So here's how easy it is to get the Canary module for Ignition there on the showcase.
We're going to see this done right in front of us.
This is great.
Because it is that easy.
It really is, yeah. And of course, we have lots of training materials and things on the Canary community. But when it comes to trusted partners like you, this is a breeze for you and your team.
And we do, just to put it out there, we use the Canary module on every single time that we are pairing Ignition and Canary. There's all the benefits, and it's free, so there's no reason not to use it. Mm-hmm. And it's gone through a lot of work over the years. There's a lot of development that went into making this as clean of an integration as possible, so that it just feels seamless. You have your history in your historian, and I get to use it on any screen, any script, any function that I want within Ignition.
Right.
And even down to the fact that we haven't really touched on this either. This is a big deal. This is one of the other pain points that I had mentioned out of you have disparate data that is happening on all these different sites or all these different controllers from all these different OEMs. It doesn't have to be an enterprise system. It could just be different PLCs on the plant floor that were provided by different companies. And aliasing, which is a major feature within Canary, and the use of regex. Man, your best friend. And Jeff and Kyle are both wizards at regex, and our engineers are too. It's your best friend because it will allow you to set up the proper data model and then be able to directly use that within Ignition, which is money, such a time saver.
Right. Yeah, the first time I learned about regex, that was a day I won't forget. I thought I was reading hieroglyphics, and within a few short days, it actually made sense.
And benefit of that for anybody that isn't familiar with it is that think of like if you had a, I don't know, we'll go off of a plant floor. If you have similar pieces of equipment, so say you have fillers and you have packaging lines and you have other types of machines that are grouped, it is very easy to start grouping those, aliasing them in the same way, labeling your data with the same nomenclature and without recreating the data. So it's still the same, but you have just made a view of it so that it is easily usable within Canary, Axiom, Ignition. And every time that you want to run calculations or show on screen or group together, it has made it so that you have aliased them all in the same method and made it really easy to use together.
That's great. Okay, so we talked about logging data, but we can do more than that with Ignition. So how do we get data back into Ignition from Canary?
So I would say that that was actually part of that whole speech of showing off that module, that logging, sure, you can utilize Ignition to log into the Canary Historian. In a lot of our instances, we're taking in Canary to Canary, or MQTT to Canary, or SQL to Canary. And a lot of times, the only interaction between Ignition and Canary might be the pulling back of data into Ignition screens. And so that's where directly within browsing menus, we can tag browse, we can use it as our tag history provider. We can use it within any of the menus where we are selecting, and we can pull that data directly back into screens. What else do you want to hit on with that, Kyle?
Well, I'm just wondering, from the end user's perspective, that's kind of where my head's going here, because you have your ears to the ground with your end users. So with the Axiom embedded screens in Axiom and getting that into Ignition, maybe talk about just sort of individual use cases, or maybe some problems that you've seen companies solve just by having this paired together and having that functionality.
So seamless is the thing that I'm going to talk about again. Of it should almost feel like it's just intuitive, and you didn't even have to worry about it. See, Jeff showed us now not just a flat line. He's showing us squiggles. We always want to see squiggles on there. You shouldn't have to think about it. It should just feel intuitive, almost like it was always meant to be that way. So when we are building a dashboard that is showing off information about multiple different sites or multiple different machines, and we want to pick where that data is coming from, it should just be right there in the structure. And when we want to do calculations on it, and we wanted to organize and manage those calculations, we have the capability of doing that in Canary. Sometimes we do some stuff in Ignition. Sometimes we do some stuff in Flow. But it should all feel part of one ecosystem and not like a hodgepodge. And so that's been the use case of how do I make trend screens, reports, dashboards, detail screens all feel natural and intuitive to the user and the designer. And I feel like you guys have accomplished that in the way that the module all relates back to that Ignition development.
So let's talk about how we will get started with something like this. So companies, they have these challenges. They want to get started. Where does a project like this begin?
Oh, yes. So in the beginning, so sometimes they're going to come and they're going to have a full RFP, user requirements, everything. They're going to know everything under the sun about it. And that's good. And you can start crafting an architecture off of that, and you can make a proposal, and somebody like me, as a SCADA and MES specialist, would start working with that team of building out that solution. Or also extremely common is that no knowledge, but just problems and issues that they're trying to solve. And maybe that was a little harsh, not no knowledge. It's coming to a point where you're like, you want some help. You know that there's got to be a better way. You're trying to find the solution that is going to be right for this. And that is a very common point that they're coming to us. And then it's spending more time of crafting what are the feature requirements going to be. Maybe it's an engineering study that we start with. Maybe it's just helping get that documentation together and building an architecture together of what it should look like. But at the end of the day, it's making something that is going to be powerful, scalable, flexible, and cost efficient for that customer.
Exactly. All about filling their needs. Now, from the Canary side, oftentimes we'll have customers reach out to us and we'll loop in partners like yourselves. And that's where I work to make sure you have the tools that you need. But we have a team at Canary that can talk about the Canary system and how we can step in and help companies tackle these data challenges. I feel like we just built this out on the fly. I mean,
that did not go down in flames. I want to give Jeff a hand right now because, man, that was some wicked typing on the back end to keep up with the conversation that's happening on the fly.
Well, I feel like we're ready to present this here for ICC. What do you think, Chris?
Done and done.
Got the slide deck. Let's do it.
It was fun talking with you today, Kyle.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Chris. Really appreciate you and the team at Vertech.
Thank you.